right, thank you for staying with us. There's still a lot of your questions coming through and we're running out of time. Let's see if we can squeeze most of them in here. Dr. Tabu Diwaton Ian Kipla says, my question is, how much does it cost to get a jab of AstraZeneca, and can it be taken through a medical cover?
Thank you. The government has invested in the AstraZeneca vaccine at a very huge cost within the next 2 years of about 34 billion Kenya shillings, 20 billion of which is being supported by the Gavi, and 14 billion shillings that's supported by the government of Kenya. But it's going to avail it to Kenyans at no cost. So it's going to be availed through a network of public, private, faith-based NGO health facilities at no cost.
So this will be free?
Yes.
Okay. Let's bring up some of the questions that are coming in on video.
It might make us lose more lives than the disease. Our leaders have no trust on it. The president was the very first person to handle the new currency, the very first person to handle the Huduma card. He now wants to be the very last person to be vaccinated. From other countries, their leaders don't want the vaccine. They just want to cheat the citizens that they're getting the vaccine, but in the real sense, they ain't. I'm just advocating that let the vaccine go back to the laboratory for perfection. Then once it is ready, it can come back to us so that when it is administered to us, it is safe, not endangering our lives.
What details did our government see from that vaccine so that they decided to bring it to our country? And number two, for those who have been vaccinated so far, what are the observations? Are we having such experiences as the ones being experienced in other countries?
Did our leaders know something that we didn't know? Why in the first place they didn't take the jab, they were not vaccinated? And in a short time we hear of problems, suspension in some countries. Were they given some intelligence and they avoided vaccination that us Kenyans were left to be vaccinated to act as guinea pigs?
I'm truly disturbed about the level of ignorance in this our state. Look, people are running away from this vaccine. Look at the European nations. They are backing off from this vaccine. Here we are, fronting people to get vaccinated. Honestly, can't we be sensitive enough to realize that we need to give this thing some time?
Now, like the way we are seeing in some other countries that they are getting a blood clot, how am I going to be convinced now that I can get this jab?
Why is Kemri and Pharmacy and Poisons Board so quiet on this growing concern that AstraZeneca vaccine is causing blood clots in a given population in Europe? Are they able to carry their parallel investigations to quell this growing anxiety in Kenyan population?
Is blood clot a side effect to the use of the Oxford AstraZeneca jab? And number two, the reports which have been received from the developed countries which have banned the vaccination, are the reports any different from the natural occurring blood clotting from the population immunization?
Should we be concerned about the blood clot cases after one takes the vaccine, or is it safe?
How long will the immunity of this vaccine last? My second question is this: how will the vaccine heal, for example, the emerging strains of COVID-19? The third question is this, Trevor: how will be the efficacy of each vaccine? Because now we are learning to understand that we have got different vaccine coming in our country.
I understand that there are countries that have banned or have stopped the use of the current vaccine of COVID-19 that we are using. And my question is, why can the WHO just stop this and ensure that those queries have been answered before you continue getting the vaccine? Thank you.
What will the government do to ensure that the populace is confident on taking the vaccine, bearing in mind that many countries in the world have actually withdrawn the vaccine over safety concerns, including blood clots? In the same note, we are aware that over 1 million doses are in the country of the same vaccine. So what will the government actually do to ensure that the populace is not afraid of taking the vaccine?
Dr. Tabu, I think the issue here is the confidence in this vaccine. That's the main story that has been asked by several people. And you've addressed it before, but I'll allow you to address it again.
Yeah, thank you, Trevor, and thank you, Trevor, for the opportunity to allow me to address this again. The confidence of the public in this vaccine is paramount. It is important for us being able to stem the ongoing pandemic. Again, stopping the pandemic is our moral duty. And I'll be able to share with you just now that it is our moral duty as the Ministry of Health, as the government, to first of all, as we roll out the vaccine, first objective is to first of all do no harm. So we would not wish to bring a vaccine that does more harm than it benefits the population. We would also wish to maximize the benefits of any particular health intervention. That is why it's targeted. For instance, if we go to our leadership and everybody out there, then how many more doses are left in the first instance to the person who sees the patients on a daily basis within the health facilities, to the person who needs it most before we go forth? So the politicians, some of them have received the vaccine, but then again, they are more prioritized for the next phases of the vaccines. Again, as we move on, Trevor, all of us have known or rather know someone who has either been infected, affected, or died from COVID-19 infection. It's no longer a myth like it was at the beginning, like this is the disease of the weak, this is a European disease, or so to speak. Now it is here with us, even when we doubted at the beginning. We are here, we have a very important tool that could stop this pandemic and allow us to rebuild our economy. And we are doubting it just like we did in the beginning. The vaccine rollout is a global effort, not just within this country, but really with the basic principle that no one is safe until all of us are safe. So even the developed countries wouldn't be quite selfish because they wouldn't be safe until all of us are safe. Within this country, ladies and gentlemen, if I get vaccinated and my neighbor is not vaccinated, I am not safe. So no one is safe until all of us are safe. These vaccines have been developed using the existing routine immunization platforms. So it's not a new technology altogether. The vaccine has followed, has given it a quick turnaround because the steps to vaccine development, unlike the routine immunization vaccines, we have had all those steps being done simultaneously, as opposed to the other vaccines where they will be done sequentially. And it has mirrored the existing vaccines, just trying to replicate what has been used for the existing vaccines. This is why we have a quick turnaround. So as we speak today, and I'd just like to emphasize, the COVID vaccines, the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine is safe, and I encourage our people to take it. The WHO has pronounced themselves on this matter. They have said it is safe, and the rates of the events that have been observed within a few countries, 11 countries to be specific in Europe, and they are in their tens. They're literally about 15 events across, close to 15 events across about 11 countries, and 22 embolism events across, again, 11 countries, is much less compared to the more than 500 deaths that we have witnessed. Do we really need to wait another 1 year to lose another 500,000 deaths waiting to be convinced again a bit more about this particular vaccine? I mean, what is our moral responsibility, our moral duty here? So let us be able to take the vaccine as a government. The regulatory agencies are monitoring strictly to make sure that no such events happen. Again, as I wrap up, blood clots happen even in a natural environment. I did share some of the predisposing factors that give us blood clots. And like we have seen, we have the rates of blood clots happening a bit higher in the normal general population compared to the vaccinated population. But why are we keen on this? It is because the blood clot events that have been reported have happened a bit closer to the vaccine administration. So we have to be absolutely sure.
Yeah.
And yes, death or disability is a severe event. The other things we'll be looking out for is we'll be looking out for clusters of these events. So far, there's been no clusters of these events to say, look, it's in this locality, and therefore this is where the problem is. We have not seen increased rates to say, look, the rates with this vaccine are higher than the rates in this other general population for us to get there and stop the vaccination. But nonetheless, the global community, the Kenya country authorities continue to watch closely and monitor the rollout of the vaccine, even as for safety signals.
But out of the more than 20,000 people who've been vaccinated in Kenya today, there's been no adverse effects.
Yes.
This is a confirmation you're making.
It's a confirmation I'm making, and I'm making a confirmation that we have an ICT platform where we have all these details documented in for the people that have been vaccinated, so that we do not have a chance of missing out an event should it happen.
Okay. Is it normal for certain people in certain parts to have different adverse reactions to the same vaccine? How do you differentiate between causal effect and coincidence?
Yes, thank you. So different, just like other medicines, the effectiveness or the reactions to medicines sometimes is dictated by other factors beyond just the chemistry of the medicines themselves. For example, medicines might, just like vaccines, might work different in people of different races. So that remains to be proven, it remains to be seen. Gender may play a role. People who drink versus people who don't drink, people who smoke versus people who don't smoke. But the basic principle is continuously monitoring the events, the safety signals within all of these populations to see whether there's a difference or not. But of particular interest is to investigate conclusively any severe adverse event or death that may be even very remotely linked to a vaccination. This linkage may be because it's close enough to the time the vaccine was given. This linkage may just be because it's happening within that same population category or so forth. And just to highlight on that point, having the vaccination does not obviate the other health events that we go through. You will still go through the other health events that would have happened or occurred even in the absence of vaccination. So beyond the severe adverse events, we as a ministry, as a program, and as the regulatory authorities, the PPB, are keen on the patterns around these particular signals, adverse events, or so to speak. And the patterns are, number one, the rates. How frequently are they happening? Are they happening a bit more frequently than was reported in the information from the research sites? Are they happening more frequently in the subsequent years compared to the past? Are they happening in clusters so that then you can relate them to a specific batch and not in other places? Are they happening in clusters so that you can then focus them to a specific geographical location, race, or so to speak? And these we investigate very, very closely.
Okay. Now we have the first batch of vaccination going on in the country right now as we speak, and there's a second batch coming through. At some point, will this be a free-for-all market where now Johnson & Johnson can send theirs, Moderna can send theirs, and what will be the effect of if I took an AstraZeneca vaccine and then the next round I take a Moderna vaccine?
So two things, Trevor. I would like to take away the notion of the free-for-all market, because that has a quality connotation to it. By and large, the opening up of the private sector and other options for the country for people to be able to access these vaccines is about enabling as many Kenyans as possible to be able to access these vaccines beyond that which the government then is able to provide. Secondly, as we provide these vaccines, for instance, we began with the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine. We'd like to encourage Kenyans as much as possible to complete the schedule of the second dose with the vaccine type that they began with. If, for instance, I come for vaccination and today I have the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine, and 8 weeks later the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine is not available, but we have a different vaccine that is available, then I would have two options: either to wait for the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine to be available, it would come later, it doesn't impact the protection that I'll be able to receive as an individual, or two, to restart the immunization schedule with the vaccine that then is available. So if you found by the time you're going back for the second dose, it is the Pfizer vaccine, for instance, that is available, you would need to be able to restart that schedule, because these vaccines are developed on different technology platforms. They work differently, and therefore you can anticipate that the protection may not build up on the previous dose.
I have a final question here, because someone is saying now that Dr. Tabu says that you shouldn't be vaccinated when you have COVID-19, and we know that sometimes this disease is asymptomatic. Does it then mean that I have to get tested fast to prove I'm COVID negative before I get the vaccine?
So what I did say is that you would not be vaccinated if you have symptomatic, acute, and confirmed infection with COVID-19. There is no effect to you if you get vaccinated and you have a symptomatic COVID-19 disease, and we do not require you to be tested ahead of receiving your COVID-19 jab.
So at this point, anyone can walk into any hospital and ask for a vaccine, or do we still have categories?
At this point in time, we still have categories. We are still at that point in time where we are dealing with the frontline workers that are critical in assuring the functioning of our economy. In the next few weeks, we'll be able to have the people who are most at risk of death from severe COVID disease being vaccinated, and these are people with chronic medical conditions. Then subsequently after that, anyone will be able to walk in and get their COVID jab.
All right. Dr. Collins Tabu, thank you so much for making time. This is a fascinating conversation. I wish we had more time, but we have to leave it there for now. And thank you so much for all the questions that you sent in. We'll ensure you get as much information as we can give to you over this vaccine as it rolls out in the country. Special thanks to Dr. Collins Tabu, head of Kenya's National Vaccines and Immunization Program at the Ministry of Health, and also Wilson Mushora for sign language interpretation this night. Actually, it's almost morning, but tonight still. My name is Trevor Mbija. It was a pleasure having you with us. Bye for now.
Thank you.